Jokic wins the game at the buzzer.
The More Bettor Podcast.
What up, everyone? Welcome back into the Board Bettor show for this week. I'm your host, Josh, as always, joined by another special guest. A friend of mine. We haven't had a chance to jump on a stream together, but we do get the chance to talk hoops pretty much every other day. You guys probably best know him at YBB Sports Data on Twitter. Go Hart, my guy. How you doing?
Good. I'm coming off of a little bit of a rough day, but there's some spots on today's card that I'm looking forward to breaking down with you. So,
yeah, it's been an up and down season. Like, I can't hide that. I'm sure everyone knows that's watched the show and that follows along anyway. But that's just, I think, the nature and the beast of the industry that we're in. Sometimes things go great, sometimes things not so great. But the end goal is always the same, and that is that once it's all said and done, we're at least trending in the right direction and making things profitable long term. So let's try and, like you said, get things on deck today, because my card has ended up being a lot busier than what I anticipated. I initially thought I was maybe going to have a play on the card. Now I've got like 3 plays and like doubled down on a couple of plays. So we'll dive into all of our best bets for today in a little bit. Nice. Chat through those. We'll obviously do our squad right at the end as well for everyone over in the Discord chat. But as usual, we'll kick things off with our first 2 segments, a bit of homework review, and of course, we'll do a scouting report on a specific team, which will be the Phoenix Suns today, and the new look Phoenix Suns specifically, and what we think we should start to expect from them going forward to close out the regular season. Then of course, what their ceiling is come playoff time. But diving into just homework review real quick, my man, I'll do my one really quickly. I think it's just a really interesting one off the top of my head, because I was looking into the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have one of the best league efficiency differentials at the moment, heading towards the final stages of the regular season, looking specifically how they match up as well with teams that basically suck offensively, which is what Miami do this season. And, I've been someone who's kind of anti-Heat all season long. I'm on an unders today. We'll talk about that when the best bets come around. But looking specifically at the Cavs, who have just become these bullies against these teams who struggle to score points, bottom 6 teams in effective field goal percentage offensively. The Cavs are holding their opponents under their team total in 9 out of the 11 games that they've played in those matchups, giving up an average of just 95 points per game. They're also 8-3 ATS in those matchups as well so far this season. So they have no problems locking down against these teams that just don't score. The only 2 teams who went over their team total that are bottom 6 in EFG percentage, like I said, the San Antonio Spurs in both their matchups. And I think that kind of just speaks a little bit more to the specific style of play. The Spurs are just going to run up and down. They don't care if you make or miss. They're going to try and push pace regardless. And I think maybe the Cavs probably fell victim into an up and down game in those ones. Also caught in a couple of bad spots. But like I said, I think this is just we already know it's an elite defense, but it's probably one of those few elite defenses that is happy to show up against bad teams as well. I don't want to say they're flat track bullies, but they're the type of team who takes the regular season a little bit more seriously as they're trying to establish themselves in the league and their position. Seeding matters a lot to this team, I think, as well. They understand that their home road splits probably aren't what they would want it to be. So home court advantage, especially for the first round of the playoffs, matters a lot for this team. So for me, I'm going to take advantage of that, hopefully today, against one of those teams that is bottom 6 in effective field goal percentage. But I think just going forward, really looking at the Cavs in those matchups against bottom feeders to really lock them down, not give up a lot of points. Like I said, those team total unders are super valuable. I think they will be as well when they get those remaining matchups on their schedule. What about you, my man? Is there anything that you see differently in the Cavs? But then also, what are you seeing across the landscape of the league right now?
For the Cavs, not so much. There is one player that I want to see get more involved, and I do think that we see him get more involved as the season progresses, and that's going to be Karis LeVert. I think that the Cavs need to get him a little bit more involved, because he's a certified hooper. He's a certified bucket getter. And I think that's a good look for yourself. For me, I'm going to go opposite, and I'm going to say a team that I believe is regressing. And I hate to say it because I live in the city, but it's the Dallas Mavericks, man. It is the Dallas Mavericks. And while I wanted to see them turn a corner, what we're seeing now is with the addition of Kyrie Irving, you're getting a taxed number on the Dallas Mavericks. So their average line since acquiring Kyrie Irving is minus 4.4. Their true line should be minus 1.22. So this is a spot where we're seeing the Kyrie and Luka Doncic number being taxed. We're seeing it become true today as they are 2.5 favorites,
Yeah.
I believe, in New Orleans. So it's becoming a little bit more true. It's starting to, to become a little bit more sharp. But what I will also add is as we end the season, the Mavericks might make the playoffs, but they are not deep enough to continue this. You cannot have Luka and Kyrie Irving contributing for more than half of your team's, points and efficiency. There's no bench. There's nobody else getting involved. Christian Wood is a defensive liability. There's just a lot of pieces that I think, are going to show up as the season progresses, and you're going to be paying a tax backing the Mavericks.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I just got a call.
No, you're good. I have a tough time pricing the Mavericks as well, where I come up closer to market more often than not, knowing that it's probably not accurate. It's really difficult when you're incorporating another superstar to then try and find fair value price on a team. Ultimately, I mean, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. So going forward, I still think that this trade had to be done for Dallas, not necessarily for this season. Like, I don't think that their ceiling this season is particularly high, but ultimately they needed to start to do something to build more around Luka, and obviously pairing him with another superstar, I think, was of paramount importance, because come the offseason, let's say hypothetically Kyrie commits to Dallas, they at least have a clearer view of what they need to build around both of those guys going forward. Like you said, incorporating defensive wings, finding a proper defensive rim protector as well that can help them get the stops that they need down the stretch of games. Right now, they don't get any stops, period. But I think that it's still a trade that absolutely had to be done that gives them a higher ceiling long term than what they have right now. So as someone, like you said, in that city, do you think that the trade, not only was it the right decision, but do you think it at least gives them something to move forward to? Or do you think that this is just going to go pear-shaped? Kyrie's going to walk in the offseason and they're just going to be left basically empty-handed again and basically starting from scratch again?
That's hard to say. Kyrie hasn't really given the team a commitment. So it's like now, you're going to go back to the well the following season with Luka Doncic doing everything. For as good of a player as he is, he's not really performing at his plus-minus rates. The Mavericks are actually at a negative disadvantage when he's on the court. It's because he doesn't get back on defense. He doesn't defend. He's going to get buckets, but he's not going to guard you. He's not going to get back on defense. He's going to, miss a layup, and he'll be the last one back on the court. Yeah, it's awful, man. And
are you a Jason Kidd fan?
I'm a Jason Kidd fan. Yeah. I think he's a better player coach than, let's say, Chauncey Billups in Portland or a Steve Nash of Brooklyn. I do think that he knows how to get a grasp of his team and what he needs, but I have a hard time reading the Mavs right now, and I think that we're just paying a season tax to back them, and it's been evident they're one of the league's worst ATS teams, with up there with the Heat. So for me, a team that I think is going to regress even further is going to be the Mavericks.
Yeah, that's something that I probably have to agree with. I wanted it to work really badly, because I love the offensive potential that they have, especially in the playoffs. Like, you have these two elite shot creators that can create for themselves and others in half court sets that other teams don't have that level of ceiling offensively. But what does it really matter when you quite literally can't stop a thing, I guess? And that's going to be the ultimate Achilles heel for this team.
Right. Their genetic makeup has also changed drastically from last season, where they were a defensive team, good wings, playing with chemistry. And we're not seeing that this season. They're an over team. I mean, it's just disgusting to watch them right now.
Maxi Kleber being back and healthy, I think, helps a lot. He was back out of the lineup again last game. He's someone who gives them some level of stability defensively, but I don't know. I feel like it's still just sort of papering over the cracks, right? These issues are probably far deeper than anything that can just be addressed between now and the playoffs starting.
Right.
I want to touch as well on, obviously, like I said, we'll get into the scouting report on the Phoenix Suns. We can tie it into that last game because I think the Mavs are probably the closest team that have come to beating this new look Suns. We're talking about a really small sample size still at the moment, just 3 games since Kevin Durant came into it. Do you feel like it's officially Suns or bust in the West?
Suns or bust. Yeah, that's a tough take. What I will say is that they are coming off a really big win in Dallas, and people consider like the Dallas owning the Suns because of what happened last season in the playoffs. Sure, yeah, they beat them, but if you look back at history, the Suns are actually 11-2 straight up. They've actually owned the Mavericks on the flip side.
Yeah.
Just when it comes to the playoffs, it's been a little bit of a different story. They just haven't had the pieces together to actually advance. I do think the addition of Kevin Durant is going to take a lot of pressure off of Devin Booker. It gives them an additional weapon. And you're going to see the market start to correct as well on Phoenix. And we're seeing that tonight right now with them being minus 13.5 favorites over the league's best ATS team over the past 2 seasons. The Thunder have been so undervalued. It's been crazy. Like, they just continue to cover spreads. Bookmakers don't know how to price them. They win outright again as an underdog against the Warriors. So this is a step in the right direction. They were minus 14 favorites last time against the Thunder and lost outright. So that's a little bit concerning, but I do think that, they didn't have Kevin Durant as well at that time. Now you got 2 leaders you have 3 leaders really, because you can operate with Devin Booker, you can operate with CP3. CP3 might be old, but he's going to get the team involved. And then you have Kevin Durant. It's just, I like what they're doing right now. I think their genetic makeup is built to go deep in the playoffs. I do think Ayton, he's so slept on and underappreciated as a Sun. Like, a lot of people give him a lot of grief, but this guy is, he's out there doing his job. So, yeah, man, I think the Suns, if we see Mavericks and Suns, I'm going with the Suns. I'm going with the Suns to advance.
Yeah, I would in that series as well, and pretty bullishly. Like you said, 2 points I certainly agree on. I think Ayton is very undervalued league-wide in terms of what he does. And I think a lot of it is people probably put too much emphasis on his contract and expect him to perform to that value when comparing to other players on the similar contract, which is a little bit unfair to him because at the end of the day, it's not a big man league right now. So there's only so much impact I think he can have on the floor. But what he does at a pretty efficient rate. And ultimately, in my opinion, the Suns' ceiling comes down to what level of performance they get from DeAndre Ayton in the playoffs. Because if he's playing like he did that year they made the finals, where he's boxing out defensively, he is getting stops in and around the rim, he's finishing efficiently above the rim, making the right decisions offensively with the ball in his hands, I don't think this team can be beat in a best of 7 series. People want to talk about the depth, but at the end of the day, the playoffs, your starters are playing 38 minutes a night. You're probably only going into an 8-man rotation. In an 8-man rotation, they're fine. They have the pieces off the bench that can keep them afloat. You can stagger lineups with Durant and with, like you said, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, so that you always have shot making and shot creating on the floor at any given time. But just the offensive numbers they have at the moment, again, I know it's just a 3-game sample size, but it's like off the charts good. And I don't think it regresses. I think it's something that is very sustainable with Durant. They're first in efficiency differential since KD took the floor for the Suns, 126.2 points per 100 possessions, a 60% effective field goal percentage. They're only turning the ball over on 10% of their possessions. That's top 3 in the league in that phase. I think we're at a point now in this NBA calendar where offenses probably matter more than defenses in the playoffs. I know that the playoffs have always been about, you need elite defense, you need elite rebounding, and you need above average offense. I think we're getting to a point where it's flipping now. You need elite offense and you still need above average defense. But I think that the impetus is now on being able to score buckets in half court sets. And you got the best mid-range scorers in the NBA with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, most likely. You have floor spacing around those guys, and you have that lob and inside threat with DeAndre Ayton. So they're probably the most complete starting 5, in my opinion. You're still talking about guys like TJ Warren as well that can come off the bench, that can score buckets for them as well. I think it's fair to say I'm probably just going to buy the Phoenix Suns to come out of the West very soon, because that price probably only shortens between now and the end of the season. Do you agree with that? Do you think that the entry point right now for the Suns to come out the West is probably now, just given the fact that there's a very good chance that they run the table to close out the regular season and really put pressure on potentially even stealing the 2 seed?
I like that look. It depends what odds I'm going to get. I'm not really a futures kind of a bettor, but I can see them matching up pretty well with the Denver Nuggets, actually. I think the Denver Nuggets would, initially were my pick, but if you look at how they match up, I could see the Suns giving them a lot of grief, actually. That is not a bad look. Yeah, I think as the season progresses, we're going to see a lot of advancements from the Suns. I mean, they can match up well with anybody right now. So, yeah,
I can see plus 240 on the board still for the Suns to come out the West. And like you said, I think Denver's the only one that potentially scares them in a best of 7. When you have Jokic there, obviously you probably have the best player on the floor. Arguable, though, when you have KD in the playoffs and the way that he performs come playoff time. But there's just no one else in the West in a best of 7 that I think beats them, period.
Right.
And if they do manage to steal the 2 seed, which I think is pretty likely, all things considered. I mean, Memphis is just going to go on this slide. Ja Morant's probably not coming back this regular season, based on everything I'm hearing at the moment. The fact that the Kings, I think, are going to have to regress at some point. They have the harder schedule as well. If they steal the 2 seed and they don't have to worry about Denver until the finals, the best entry point right now for a futures market on the Suns is right now, I think, rather than waiting to see what happens, because, if they're going to avoid all the teams are of major concern for them. And I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, if we priced a Denver Phoenix conference finals, does it open Denver as favorites given that they're home court? I think they might shade it slightly, maybe minus 115 in a series, but it's a coin flip series, right? At worst, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in a coin flip series, I mean, I would take the Suns still over Denver.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the standings. They're 2.5 games back from Memphis and Sacramento for that 2 seed. 2.5 games, I think that they can make that up. I really do think that they might run the table to close out the regular season.
I'm right there with you. I think the Grizzlies are going to kind of skid out of that. I believe they're the 3 seed right now. And I think that the Kings as well are going to kind of slide out. The West right now is a little bit of a bloodbath. But I do think that the top 10 teams are pretty much set. I don't see Portland. I don't see New Orleans. I don't see any of those teams really making it. So
yeah,
I think the 10 that you have right now are the 10 that are really going to be competing.
Yeah, I think I'm going to buy it after this show. I think we can officially say I'm getting in on the Suns now. I think this is the best entry point for them to come out the West. If you want to take them an NBA championship, I obviously couldn't talk you out of that one either, but I think that that's the team that comes out the West. I've even just in the 3-game sample, I think I've seen enough to suggest that they're at least going to be at the right point that they need to be when the playoffs start, which is the complete opposite to Dallas, right? Where I think that trade, like you said, it did need to be done. I don't think there's enough time to work it out on the fly. And
right. I'm right there with you.
The hard thing with Dallas as well that I think was already an issue is they weren't performing to their defensive capabilities anyway prior to this trade happening. Like, they were bottom 10 in every basically defensive metric possible. And we just assumed that they would figure it out and get back to the level they were last season. Obviously, the trade now going down, that's not going to happen. But maybe that defense just overachieved last season anyway, and this is some sort of regression to a mean.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Mavericks are just they're just a really tough team for me to grasp right now. I don't even know if they finish in the 5 seed. I think that they kind of skid a little bit. But yeah, I mean, to your point, the Suns, they have 3 games as well coming up against 3 more games coming up against the Thunder. I think that they win all 3. I think that they have one of the easier schedules on route to become the 2 seed. So with Denver already locked up in the number 1, I don't think that they're going to be, essentially already locked up.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're going to play as competitive as the season goes on, I think that Denver's kind of a sell team against the spread. I think that they'll win games, but I think against the spread, you're going to see a lot more rested activities. So,
Yeah, I think I'm just looking at the schedule as well. So the Suns still have to play the Kings twice. So when you're 2.5 games back and you got to play them twice, and I think that they match up tremendously against Sacramento as well, they can steal those 2 games, and we're basically therefore racing thereafter between those 2 teams for a division title, and of course for that number 2 seed. The Kings, they've still got to play at the Bucks. They've still got to play at the Celtics as well. Yeah, I'm all in. I'm grabbing that Suns Western Conference winner right now. So give me that one. Question in the chat. Just a quick thought. What are your 2 cents on the Lakers in terms of where you think they finish? Can they avoid the play-in, or are they just going to be play-in bound, and then we see what the matchups are from there?
The Lakers are actually a discounted team that I have circled as my second half of the season play on team.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they're just playing what you cannot cap. You can't cap chemistry. But what the Lakers are doing is that they're playing with a lot of chemistry and they're playing with confidence. They also went back to their defensive roots. From last season, they were holding opponents below, I believe it was like 108 or something like that after the All-Star break, and we're headed in that same direction again. We're seeing a lot more defense from them. We're seeing chemistry. I like the addition of D'Angelo Russell. I like Rui Hachimura. I like what they did with their lineup, because before they had the Westbrook curse, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But this team is starting to flow, and they're starting to find their identity. This is going to be a tough team to beat as well. I like Anthony Davis's leadership right now. Before, and still maybe he might be a little bit glass, but he is filling LeBron's shoes nicely while he's on the bench. So Lakers they're a buy-on team for me 100%. I like that.
I like them as well going forward. I think that ultimately you look at the games they've got left, 29th in terms of opponent strength remaining, which means they have the second easiest run home. I think they take full advantage of that as well. They play the Bulls twice. They've still got to play the Rockets twice. They play the tanking Utah Jazz twice, who I think are in full decline mode at the moment. So that they're going to finish, obviously, in the play-in spots. I don't think that they can make up enough ground to finish in a 6 seed or better at this point, but that's a win for them in itself. It's just going to come down to, can they get a 7-8 spot where they just have to win 1 game to get to the play-in? You don't really want to be falling into that 9-10 where you have to win it twice. So for me, the Lakers, I think, are in good stead, and I think that we're going to get opportunity to buy on them going forward. And of course, we should be able to get a good price on them as well to make the playoffs still, if you haven't already got involved in that one. So I think their defense still very underrated in the market as well. For me, they're top 2 defense in the Western Conference right now. And it's not really showing up, which is why we've had a lot of success betting unders, like we said last show, where the market hasn't quite got to them yet. So give me Lakers going forward, and then let's talk about them once the playoffs come around, because they might be able to match up well depending on who gets those seeds. If they get the Phoenix Suns first round, unfortunately for them, that'll be them done and dusted. But if they can get a Memphis, or if they can get a Sacramento in that first round, they're probably going to make the second round. I don't think Memphis or Sacramento beats them in a best of 7, assuming the Lakers are fully healthy, right?
I totally agree with you. I think the Lakers match up pretty much well with everybody outside of Denver and Phoenix. I pick them above the Mavericks right now. I think the Lakers are 100% a buy-on team. There's a team in the East as well that I think is a buy-on that a lot of people are kind of sleeping on, myself included. I slept on them last night. It's the 76ers. They're playing with a lot of chemistry right now. They're getting into that. What I hate to see is Doc Rivers is a regular season coach. I hate to say it, but he falls out of the playoffs, and maybe I'm biting the bait again. But we're seeing leadership from James Harden. We didn't see that last season. We're seeing leadership. He's stepping up. He's getting teammates involved. Not only that, I believe he sat last night, and then we see Tyrese Maxey. We see Tobias Harris. They have options. They are clicking right now, and they're clicking at the right moment. Not a team I'm willing to fade. This is a team that I have marked down where their average win since the All-Star break is plus 5.75. Their average line is plus 0.1. So the market really hasn't caught up to where their true number should be. We're going to see a massive inflated number, with them against Portland. I believe they play on the 10th. And I'm already looking in their direction. I think that they steamroll Portland. I think Portland has a big game tonight in Boston. But yeah, Portland's going to be one of those teams that unfortunately falls out of playoff contention, in my opinion. I just don't think that they have the pieces to keep up. They lack the experience. And they really just kind of lack the motivation right now. It doesn't look like they have a motor to really get there. So yeah, 76ers, they're another team that I think is going to be really undervalued. I like what they're doing right now.
Yeah, I will be riding them regular season to close out. I think they're going to close out the regular season strongly. But I've spoken about on this show my concerns about them in the playoffs. And like you said, it largely revolves around Doc Rivers. He's just, I don't want to say soft, but he's not the motivator I think that team needs. I think Joel Embiid and James Harden need someone that's going to light a fire under them, someone that's going to challenge them in those big moments. He's not that guy.
And he doesn't adapt.
Yeah, exactly. And when push comes to shove, I still don't trust this team when their backs are against the wall. I still think they fold in those big moments. And
yeah, I'm not. I don't know. I don't know just yet. I might be not to be a pun, but I think I might just trust the process. I don't know, man. I like what I see from them. I like what I see from the Sixers. I hate saying it. Doc Rivers, he lost me a long time ago when he actually fumbled the bag getting Tim Duncan, all because he wouldn't let his family fly on the team plane. The Magic almost had Tim Duncan, T-Mac, Grant Hill, and Tim Duncan was ready to sign until Doc Rivers said, "Oh, your family cannot fly on the team plane." Stayed in San Antonio, and the rest is history. Doc Rivers is notoriously known for fumbling the bag, but I don't know. I see something different. I see something different this season, but maybe I'm just being fooled again. I don't know.
Ever the optimistic, but like I said, I'm with you with the Doc Rivers thing. As a Boston fan, I think it's criminal that he only won one ring with the team that he had in that era and with the landscape of the league at that time as well. So for me, he has just forever underachieved. Even when he wins, he somehow loses. So I have to see it. I have to see it before I change my opinion on him. And I have to see it as well from Embiid, because I think come playoff times, he still hasn't shown me the level of play that he's able to merit in the regular season on a near nightly basis. So things are different there. And yeah, I still have them comfortably below those top two teams in the East. I still think it's Boston, Milwaukee, Gap, Philadelphia.
Gap, I like that.
But yeah, let's dive into today's card. Let's look at the bets that we've made for today. Like I said, it's somehow become a pretty big card for me out of nowhere. A couple of these we've kind of already hinted on as well. I am on the Pelicans. Like you said, I think that there's still value on the other side in these Dallas situations. Playing in a situation on a back-to-back on the road against a desperate Pelicans team that is still fighting to try and land one of those playing spots in the West. I think this should be at least a pick. My number says that New Orleans should be favored by a half a point. I'll take the 2 points on offer here. Are you involved in this game at all, or are you staying away from it?
Yeah, I have nothing on this game. I wouldn't talk you off backing the Pelicans. I just think that this number is true. I have this as a sharp number, sharp market. We're starting to see the bookmakers adjust to Mavericks' true number. I believe I have their true number actually right where the spread is at tonight. So for those reasons, I'm going to have to pass. But yeah, I would lean the Pelicans as well.
Yeah, I think that this might be probably, if Dallas goes and drops another one outright, this will be the last time you see them sort of priced in the range that they have been these last few games. I think that's going to be kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, that we then see them priced as more of a mediocre team than an elite team, which I still think is what their numbers are showing at. Because for them to be laying 2 on the road on a back-to-back situation, yeah, I can't quite get there at all. The other one I've got a lot of action on is in Cleveland, Miami. I bought the under on opener. It's steamed up. I've bought more. I have bought on Miami's team total under. That kind of ties back to what I was saying earlier when we were talking about the Cavs in the homework review. Against bottom 6 effective field goal percentage teams, like I said, 9-2 to the unders in opponent team totals, holding teams to an average of 95 points. 2 games against the Heat this season. They split them both, but the Heat comfortably under their team total in both of those. Even the game where they won, they only scored 100 points. And I just think, like I said, I disagree pretty strongly with the market. I make this 209 as fair price. So 215.5 for me is an auto buy. You got anything on this game that you're getting involved with, or do you see anything the other way?
No. I align with you 100%. I have this game also at 209. I have it 107 to 102 Cleveland. So, yeah, I do think that we're seeing a little bit on the over just because totals this season, we haven't seen a lot of totals below that 220 threshold. This has been an offensive-minded season, but to your point, the Heat, they're actually 9-0 to the under following a home win of less than 3 points. DeJounte Murray made that true last time out. Not only that, but they allowed way too many points last time out against the Hawks. You don't want to play that way against the Cavaliers. Cavaliers aren't going to want to play that way either with you. So, yeah, I would say overall, I think this is going to be kind of a bloodbath, slower pace, half-court offense. I do see, 209.5 is exactly where I had my number. I don't know why it moved up. But, again, I think that's a lot of public action, believing that, we're in an offensive-minded kind of a league, whereas you have to look at the team's dynamic as well. So I like the under right there with you. That is a bet as well for myself. So, yeah, we are in agreement there.
Yeah, I think I have this game. I have both teams. Let me just have a look real quick. I have both teams projected for about 89 possessions each, which is really, really low. We're talking about season average where it's almost 98. So that's probably why I come so far under. I think if your market projection is for it to be closer to sort of 93, 94 possessions, then that's probably why you end up at a number at about 215, 216. So maybe there is enough influence there buying in on that over 213. But for me, happy to buy back at current number. I'm still comfortable with the opening number, very comfortable with the Miami team total under as well. I just don't think that they match up particularly well offensively in this one. And the Cavs defense, again, shows out against a team that is pretty one-dimensional offensively. Unless those three-pointers are going for guys like Duncan Robinson, this Heat offense is just too stagnant for me. The final bet I have made, which will be an interesting one to talk about, I'm on the Clippers. I took them the -3.5. You can get -2.5 now. So bad market position for me in this one. Did consider buying more -2.5, but probably just going to respect the market a little bit here. Clippers are a tough one to read. I just don't think that for me, these two teams shouldn't be rated as equal on a neutral. I still think the Clippers should be favored, which is essentially why I grabbed them at this point. Giving Clippers about 3 for home court makes this, basically close to a pick on a neutral. I think the spot for the Raptors is really, really tough. We've seen time and time again, especially this season, East Coast teams on a West Coast road trip. It's that second game of the West Coast road trip where, the jet lag, where the fatigue, where things really sort of kick in. You couple that with the fact that it's now the first game after a game in altitude at Denver as well. It all just lines up for a really, really difficult spot, I think, for Toronto. And that is basically a large part of why I got involved here. My number makes this Clippers -4.4, so it's not a huge market edge necessarily. It's more just playing the spot for me. And I think that the Clippers offense should be able to score well enough against this Toronto defense, which is enough just given the fact that Toronto still struggles significantly in half-court sets, I think. But I know that you see it the other way, which is great because I would love to get some pushback on this one. I've always been a Clippers victim in terms of putting way too much money on this team, way too much faith in this team, basically since they came together 2 seasons ago. It's not even just a this season thing. But tell me what you see in this Raptors-Clippers matchup.
Yeah, we're going to be on opposite sides here, but, the good news is one of us will win. I have the Toronto Raptors at +4. And this was last night. We'll go ahead and talk about it. I make this number actually a pick, and I have 115 to 114 Toronto outright. The Raptors are 17-1 against the spread on the road versus non-conference opponents when they're at a rest disadvantage and coming off a road game. This applies with their game in Denver. They're also 10-0 against the spread on the road with the rest disadvantage and coming off a game where they covered the spread versus a non-conference opponent. They covered the spread in Denver. They played competitive. It was a coin flip game up until Scotty Foster threw Scotty Barnes out. coin flip game, great game. They did play, up to their level. I think this is a team that wants to make the playoffs. I think they're going to make a push. So that's another buying point. Now let's talk about the fades on the Clippers side. So this is my back to reality theory. Teams coming off a win where they had to overcome a double-digit deficit in the fourth quarter. So let's not forget the Clippers. They were actually, I think, down by 15, 14 points against the Grizzlies last time out. And facing a team they beat in a previous matchup, they're actually just 5-23 against the spread. This includes 7 straight ATS losses. And these teams, they've actually lost outright 19 times. So, and these are favorites that we're discussing. So, last point on this is my home sandwich theory. Home favorites with a rest advantage and in the middle of a homestand, they're just 1-17 against the spread when coming off a game where they allowed their opponent over their team total number. And facing an opponent off a loss as a dog who they beat in a previous matchup. So this is a spot where I just think that Toronto shows up tonight. I don't believe in the Clippers. They don't play like they want to play together. I know that, I'm not really buying on them. If anything, I'm kind of selling on them. I wanted to get aboard, but I just can't. I see a little bit more motivation and determination on the Raptors side of things. I think that this team does play well under pressure. I think that they're slept on. So for all those reasons, I'm going to go with the Toronto Raptors to win this game outright.
Yeah, I do think that Toronto's a little bit slept on. I think that the trade deadline officially passing and nothing happening has sort of helped unify that locker room a little bit, and everyone understanding that they're on the same page and what their goal is for the current season. I think having those lingering trade rumors for so long that they were going to move potentially multiple starters, guys not knowing where they were going to be come the end of the regular season, was a pretty big part of why they were so up and down for the majority of the start of this regular season and found themselves so far back from the chasing pack. I do think they make the playoffs. No issues there whatsoever. I think that they can string enough wins together to probably fill that 7-8 spot in the East at least. And, unfortunately for them, I don't know how they're going to match up against those top 2 teams in the East. But to close out the regular season, I want to try and find more spots to buy on Toronto as well. For the Clippers, I mean, like I said, I fall victim to this team fucking every single season, every single month of the season, where I think that they're going to go and string some wins together. I do think that this is, again, the opportunity to do just that in this homestand. They've got the Knicks, then they've got the Warriors in a pretty big division game. Then they've got the Magic after that. They really need to go 3-1 at worst, I think, in that stretch to try and put some separation between them and those play-in spots and go back to pushing for home court in that first round as well of the playoffs. The issue I have with the Clippers is just the constant lineup changes. I don't think Ty Lue knows what his best rotation is. And I think he spent a lot of the early parts of the season figuring it out. It looked like he had worked out what his favorite rotations were. They finally started to look like the Clippers I think we all expected them to be in that fortnight before the All-Star break. And then they went and made these trades, and now they have, Russell Westbrook, Mason Plumlee, Eric Gordon, all guys who are playing significant minutes on a night-to-night basis and trying to integrate themselves into this new system. Guys that were already there trying to get familiar with their game and how to implement them best. So I think that's why it just looks so messy still. And maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but I think that come the playoffs, again, they're still going to look right, and they're going to be a really tough out over 7 games. But I understand everyone's reluctance and hesitancy towards them because they just haven't shown enough that suggests they're going to flip that. My biggest, I think, gripe with this team, and this isn't just to keep throwing more dirt on Russell Westbrook because Lord knows everyone's done it by this point, but Terrence Mann should still be the starting point guard for this team. I don't think he did anything wrong. I think he was the perfect fit with that starting lineup in terms of what he gives them defensively in being able to stop the point of attack. And offensively, he can space the floor, he can shoot the 3, and he recognizes his role. He is simply there to try and facilitate for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So that is my biggest issue with their lineup rotation at the moment. But do you think they figure things out come playoffs? Do you have any faith that this team is going to be able to make a run for at least a conference finals in a 7-game series, just given the talent alone that's available to that team?
Oh, this is tough, man. If they're healthy, right? We haven't seen
Yeah.
Paul George and Kawhi Leonard even play together that often since they've, been on the team together. They've been injured. This team is going to rely a lot on Russell Westbrook's confidence, and he's not confident, and you're seeing that a lot in all these highlights where people are just leaving him open. This guy is a backboard clunker. He's not playing with confidence at all. He's out of his comfort zone. And I can't really get behind the Clippers if you're trying to inquire a guy like that into the lineup. They're a sell for me just with the aspect that they're trying too hard to get Russell Westbrook involved, I think. And I wanted to buy on this team, but I can't right now. I think that they're going to be sharply aligned, but I think the more desperate team tonight will be Toronto. But as the season goes on, this team is going to go as far as Russell Westbrook's confidence takes them, because Ty Lue, he's a player coach. He's not going to take Russell Westbrook out of the starting lineup. He's the highest paid player this season,
Yeah,
so you're
exactly.
going to want to get your money's worth.
And I think that's probably part of it as well. Some of those players maybe still have too much say and influence in that locker room. Paul George, Marcus Morris, they were so vocal about getting Westbrook on the roster, and it just kind of makes me wonder whether, they had a little bit too much sway in that, and now as a result, they're having to live with that outcome and force feed something that might not be in their best interest, both short term and long term. But yeah, they're a tough one for sure. But those are all of our best bets for today, bets that we've made. Let's round things up. Let's get to everyone's favorite segment. Chris, let's queue up Squad Ride for everyone.
You're very confident, I'll say that.
But you shouldn't be.
All right, my man. It is time for what is everyone that watches favorite segment of the show, which is Squad Ride. We have a Discord chat that is filled with a bunch of DGens in there, and God bless their souls. They're actually doing quite well this NBA season. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read out what they have sent through as being their best bets for today. You're going to pick out which one is the official Squad Ride. They are 9-6 on the season since we've started this show. So a winning record. Let's see if we can keep that intact. You take your time with these. You can talk them out. You can think them through, and we'll work out which one stands out to you as the best bet for the squad. Now, we've got Chicago Bulls today, first quarter plus 2.5 at Denver. The Mavs Pelicans first quarter over 60 points, which I guess is just an auto look at the moment for any game involving the Dallas Mavericks. We've got a couple of player props. Evan Mobley over 15.5 points in that matchup with Miami. Darius Garland over 7.5 assists in that game. Kevin Durant over 25.5 points against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think his minutes limit is starting to go up as well, so you're probably getting value on that one. And Josh Giddey double-double today against the Phoenix Suns, where there is going to be no SGA because he is on rest as well. But those are the official Squad Ride suggestions. And now it is your job, my friend, to try and pick out which one the official Squad Ride play is going to be. So any of those stand out at all?
All right, let's break them down. So with the Pelicans and the Mavericks in the first quarter over, that's a hard look for me to get behind, only because the Pelicans are playing at one of the slowest paces. Their offense really hasn't clicked at all. The Mavericks, while being defensive-minded, coming off a home game and going on the road, they actually become a little bit more possession-aware. They play a little bit slower. So that's going to be a pass from me. I can see it going over the total, but at the same time, I can see it going under. So I'm going to pass on that one. Darius Garland over 7.5 assists. I think that number's a little too sharp for me. I do think that 7.5 is accurate. So that's also going to be a pass for me. I like the Heat's defense. They do switch well. And if I assume that this is going to be a half-court offense, that's just not a play that I'm going to be looking towards. Let's see. The one that I wanted to talk about was Evan Mobley over 15.5. I think that's my favorite spot. I think that's going to be my squad ride for the day. I think that they're going to have to get him involved. What the Heat do well is they switch well on the perimeter. They have good perimeter defense, but not interior defense. Bam Adebayo is not a defender. I think Evan Mobley is going to get what he wants. I think he's going to get offensive putbacks, offensive rebounds, draw fouls. This is going to be an ugly, gritty, grindy game where you're going to get the post players involved in a half-court offense. For all those reasons, Evan Mobley is scoring 21 points tonight. Give me the over 15.5 as the squad ride.
I like it. I like Evan Mobley a lot in this matchup as well. Like you said, Bam just playing as more of a free roam defender as well in a lot of the schemes that they operate. So not necessarily as an out and out rim protector. Probably spend some time on having to switch out on those perimeter guys as well when they run the pick and roll action. And the flip side is he's the biggest body they have, so they're going to have him on Jared Allen as well to try and take away some of those above the rim opportunities with the vertical spacing that they bring. So it all opens up for Evan Mobley, who I think is going to have the biggest mismatch, like you said, on the inside, and I think he takes advantage of it. He's growing with confidence every game offensively. I like his skill set a lot. I'm a huge believer in his talent going forward. I think he's going to be an absolute superstar in this league for years to come. But in this matchup, I fully agree with you. I fully agree with Canuck James, who was the guy that suggested that one. So Evan Mobley it is. Let's go. Over 15.5 points, official squad ride for today. Let's see if you guys can get to 10-6 and finish the regular season with a winning record. That'd be fun for the Discord group for certain. But that is all for today's episode of the Board Bettor. I appreciate you taking the time, my guy, to jump on this side of the world, talk some more hoops with us. Why don't you take a second, let everyone know where they can find all your amazing work as well if they aren't already following you and yours.
Yeah, you can find all of our work at YBB Sports Data. We're a sports data platform. I don't really, try to recommend picks. I just want to give information. I want to give information, research, and tools for you guys to make educated decisions for yourself. We do market projections. We do sharp action reports, all that kind of stuff. It can be found on our Patreon and the link in our bio. This is not a place for guaranteed wagers. We don't tout. We're not a logo capper. This is me. So there's a big difference I see between cappers and sales associates. So make sure you choose the right people. But yeah, I just want to be an informational service. I'm a degenerate myself. I like to entertain, plus money props, same game parlays. I'm just like you guys. But you can find all of our action, all the trends, Bet Lab builds, public data. Sometimes we have some free articles for you guys to check out, but it'll all be found at YBB Sports Data.
Definitely go check it out, guys. It's always useful resources to have. I'm very appreciative of it. And like I said, very fortunate that I do get to chat hoops on a daily basis in some of our group chats anyway. But like I said, thank you again for taking the time, my guy, to jump on with us. Thank you to everyone in the chat, as always. Always fun having you guys in and around. I will no doubt talk to you guys in the Discord sooner rather than later as well. Best of luck to everyone today with all of your best bet action. Let's get back on track. Let's close out this regular season in style, and let's keep rolling as the playoffs come around. Look forward to doing this all in a couple of days' time again. We'll have another fun guest joining us. But until then, best of luck and chat soon.
Peace.